أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم سبحانك لا فهم لنا إلا ما فهمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وأفوض أمري إلى الله إن الله بصير بالعباد اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وقلبا خاشعا ولسانا ذاكرا وشاكرا وتوبة نصوحا ربي يسر ولا تعسر ربي تمم بالخير ربي زدني علما وفهما والحقنا بالصالحين والحمد لله رب العالمين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My respected brothers and dear sisters and everybody watching over the internet, firstly my apologies for being late. Some emergency came up that beyond my control. I was late, but inshallah I'll try to speed up things to the best of my ability, inshallah ta'ala. Please make your haqq halal. This is the first time in 2 years we are this late. So please forgive me. Today, contrary to our normal practice of going through 54 fara'id, I want to, as I have made an announcement during Jum'ah, that I want to inshallah ta'ala cover Isra wal Mi'raj. Because according to certain calculations, tonight is Isra wal Mi'raj, the 27th of Rajab. According to some, it was last night. In either case, the ulama concur, agree upon the majority that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a year and a half before Hijrah to Medina, experienced and went through this process, this phenomenon, this miracle called Isra wal Mi'raj. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in the Quran. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa alladhi barakna hawlahu linuriyahu min ayatina innahu huwa as-sami'ul basir. Sadaqallahu al-azim. Transcendent is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who carried his servant, Abd, Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wasallam, by night from the sacred mosque, Masjid al-Haram, to the farthest mosque, Masjid al-Aqsa, whose surroundings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have made blessed, full of barakah, that we might show him, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, some of our signs, some of our ayat, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the hearer, the seer. This is something that happened, and it is fard for us to believe. There are many lessons to be learned. There are many things that we can learn from it ourselves. Not only the wonderful story, wonderful experience that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went through, and the Muslims told generation after generation every Isra wal Mi'raj night or any other time, but this is a very special occasion for us to inshallah ta'ala experience this also. I want to take you through certain steps first and some preliminary remarks in this regard, because everybody says something about Isra wal Mi'raj. But there are some ulama, some muhaddithun, the great scholars, Hafidh al-Shami and Hafidh Najmuddin al-Qayti, rahmahullah, Ibn Kathir and Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, these are all hufadh. These are people, hadith masters, we call them in English. Hadith master is a person who knows 100,000 plus hadith by memory. They're not low caliber muhaddithun, they are higher caliber. So these are his works. What I did, I went and looked into books, Islamic books, mu'tabar, reputable textbooks on the subject. Many of our ulama, what they have attempted was to collate all the hadith on Isra wal Mi'raj and put them into some sort of comprehensible format. This is a fantastic job. And it is turned into one particular hadith. Combine all the hadith together into one hadith. And these are not done by some wa'az, some speaker, or some speech maker giving some fantastic story. But these are actually exactly taken from the ahadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some of them are perhaps sahih, some of them are hasan, maybe some of them are weak. Nonetheless, the people who give this to us in this format are the ulama who are highest caliber Islamic scholars on hadith. These are not just research fella or some academic of some kind. We're talking about the Salaf al-Salihin, the hadith masters who give us this, the account of this particular, the incident of Isra wal Mi'raj. I said Isra wal Mi'raj took place 1.5 years before Hijrah. This, if we were to go back in time, and we will see that this is the most difficult time for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The most depressing time for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was really lonely at that time. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed two forms of support from him. One was his internal support at home. His beloved wife, Khadijah al-Kubra radiyallahu ta'ala anha, our mother, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took her away. She passed away. So his wife passed away. The only wife he had passed away. The greatest support he had in the house. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a month after, taken his beloved uncle, Abu Talib, who gave him everything to supported him and sheltered him from the onslaught, subjugation, tyranny, oppression, harassment of Quraysh. For years, since he declared prophethood until he passed away, he looked after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nobody could touch Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at least openly, publicly, physically, when he was alive. Because this was the law of the land. If you are under the protection of one mafia boss, one Qurayshi leader, you shall not be touched upon by anybody. So as soon as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's uncle, beloved uncle, passed away, things have turned very sour. People began to insult Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam beyond measure. The famous incident of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to Kaaba to do salat, Allahu Akbar. He's doing salat in front of the Kaaba. Salat that he knows how to do. And the leadership of Quraysh, who's at war with the Muslims, a handful of Muslims, who came to change the whole system of kufr, to change the polytheism into monotheism, all the shirk into tawheed, to instill the idea of risala, instill the idea of akhirah, they were all rejecting it. So the leadership of Quraysh and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who's representative tawheed, they saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam praying, they got so angry, so angry. He says, he's doing this, he is a defiant person. We tell him not to do, he's still doing it in front of us. So who's going to punish him? Who's going to humiliate him? So one of the persons amongst the group who was sitting with Abu Jahil and his friends, he says, I'll do it. He went and what? He grabbed the entrails, the stomach of a freshly slaughtered animal, the greens bag, the stuff. He came and emptied on the head of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was making sajda. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam woke up, when he came out of sajda, he said, "Oh uncle, I miss you so much. During your time, they will not touch me like this. But now, the Quraysh, your people, has the audacity, the boldness to attack me like this in public." I'm referring to Abu Talib's demise. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu came to help. According to another riwayah, it was Ruqayya, one of the daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, came to clean, to free Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But they left Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they began to fight Abu Bakr Siddiq so much that they bashed him up so much that they left him for dead. That much. And some people said, don't kill him. They were going to kill him, the youth. So the mushrikeen, the kafir youth was about to kill Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. And he was shouting, Why do you want to kill a person whose only crime is to say that Allah is my Lord? Referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do you want to kill somebody? It's an ayah from the Quran. Do you want to kill someone whose only crime is to say that Allah is my Lord? But they left the Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu almost for dead. One of the Qurayshis says, do you know that his family, he says, they will seek blood money and they will do this to us. Let him be, don't kill him. So they left him there. So the people, the family of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, picked him up and brought him home. How? In the arms? No, they couldn't pick him up. He was all in pieces. Nothing was holding. He was fainted completely. They put him in a two-piece between a carpet and they brought him home, to his home. After 2-3 hours of nursing by the mother of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he came to his senses. The first words that came out of his mouth was, how is Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Everybody's waiting there. Is he dead? Alive? He came to his senses, he gained consciousness. The first words, they said, Abu Bakr, how are you? How are you? Are you dead? He says, how is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? They said, we came to save you, and you want to talk about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the trouble. This is the reason why you got into trouble in the first place. You want to still ask about him. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh did not eat or drink. As mother pushed them to eat and drink, says, Wallahi, I will not touch any food until I see Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with my own eyes that he is okay. So his mother takes him to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he sees Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's so happy. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam make dua for him and what have you. Can you imagine the time period where Muslims are going through such torture? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave up from the people of Mecca, Quraysh. He went to Taif, nearby township, and he conveyed the message of Islam to these people. They also rejected him. So much so that they, on the way out, instead of saying, okay, leave, we don't want to know you, they began to throw stones at him. And his Mubarak shoes were filled with blood. This is the torture Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was going through. Nobody believes him. The number of Muslims are not more than 40 out of the whole city for the 13 years. For the 11 years, 10 years, he's been working day and night, non-stop. And yet the only thing they mete out towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is torture and suffering, harassment. So this is the picture. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is very despondent, very depressed. He says, what am I going to do? How am I going to finish my da'wah? Allah, I don't want to perish because I am going to finish this da'wah. I'm going to do my da'wah. He's so dedicated, so passionate about it. Right at that time when he came back to Mecca the following day, in the morning, the hadith collection starts from there. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, what I'm going to read you from, if you like, I can read directly from the hadith itself, or I can try to explain to you to the best of my ability. Inshallah ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, he says, I was in Hijr Ismail, at the Kaaba, the semicircle around the Kaaba. I was sleeping there, lying down at rest between two men, his uncle Hamza radiallahu anh, and his cousin Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. Jibreel and Mikael came to me, he says. With them was a third angel, Israfil alayhi salam. 3 of them. They carried him until they brought him to this spring of Zamzam. They brought him next to Zamzam water, where they asked him to lie down on his back, and Jibreel alayhi salam took him over from the other 2. Another version says, the roof of my house was open and Jibreel descended. When you take this particular version, then the ulama say, this place is not Hijr Ismail, this is the place of Hani, the first cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Talib's daughter. Abu Talib's daughter, Hani, and he every now and then used to go and sleep there, and he says the rooftop opened up and Jibreel Amin just entered. How? Don't ask me how. Then he split Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's chest from his throat to the bottom of his belly. Then Jibreel alayhi salam said to Mikael alayhi salam, bring me a vessel, a tast of what he called Zamzam, water from the well. So I will purify his heart and expand his breast. There is an operation going on. They operated on him. He took the heart out and washed it with Zamzam several times, according to a hadith here. I'm skipping. Then after that, Jibreel alayhi salam, then he brought him a golden vessel filled with wisdom and iman, which he emptied into the heart. How? What kind? Symbolic? I have no idea. It says yaqeen, iman, and wisdom, hikmah, poured into the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some different heavenly liquid of some kind. And he filled his chest with hilm, knowledge, ilm, yaqeen, and submission. Then he closed it up, he sealed it between the shoulders with the seal of prophethood. Khalas. This is first incident. There is an operation that took place to prepare Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for a journey ahead. Special journey. Some of the ulama, they say, that's why it is impossible for human beings to go through in badan, jism, and spirit at the same time go through this journey. Because a human being cannot handle the speed, cannot handle this particular journey. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared his mind and heart through this operation. Special operation. Then Jibreel alayhi salam brought the buraq. Buraq means from the word barq, lightning mount, lightning horse. Handsome faced, this is the description in the hadith. Handsome faced and bridled, a tall, white beast, bigger than the donkey but smaller than the mule. He could place his hooves at the farthest boundary of his gaze. As much as you can see, each stride is so far as much as the eye can see. What kind of the creature? A heavenly creature. Buraq. Was this only for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? No. You will see in a minute, inshallah, other Anbiya rode Buraq also. But there is a beautiful story told about this Buraq when he was grazing in Jannah, and he's so sad. All the Buraqs are jumping up and down. And they came and asked him, why are you so sad? He says, since I've been created, he says, I've been like this. Why? Because I saw one particular name when I was created. His name, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And everybody comes and goes and they mention some other name, but not Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I'm constantly sad. I want to meet him. So one story, just about Buraq in Jannah. So when Jibreel alayhi salam brought him next to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Buraq began to jump up and down. He's not settled down. Jibreel Amin alayhi salatu wasalam, Jibreel Amin told him off. He says, Adab. Do you know in whose presence are you? Ya Buraq, there is not a single creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before him or after him shall ever mount on you. Nothing. He's the best of creation. Upon hearing this, Buraq felt so embarrassed. The hadith says, he was so ashamed, he began to sweat, perspire, that he was soaked in perspiration. And he put his head down. Sometimes when children, you tell them off when you catch them, if you embarrass them, they feel, the cold sweat, they say sometimes hot sweat, whatever the case is. Are you not ashamed, Ya Buraq? By Allah, no one has written you in all creation more dearer to Allah than he is, Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Take it easy. The other prophets used to mount the Buraq before. Sa'id ibn Musayyab radiallahu ta'ala an says, it is the beast of Ibrahim alayhi salam which he used to mount whenever he traveled to the sacred house. Ibrahim alayhi salam used to go to Kaaba and on what? On Buraq. What kind of Buraq? Is the same Buraq? Allahu alam. Jibreel alayhi salam departed with him. He placed himself on the right while the Mikael alayhi salam was on his left. Ibn Sa'd version, he says, the one holding the stirrup was Jibreel alayhi salam and the one holding the reins of Buraq was Mikael alayhi salam. So, they are traveling. Where are they going? Let's go through. They are going from Masjid al-Haram, Kaaba, all the way to Masjid al-Aqsa. That's the first destination. But in between, they have breaks. In between, they stop. I put them here from the hadith again. First stop. They traveled until they reached a land filled with date palms. Lots of date palms. Jibreel alayhi salam said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, come down, alight and pray here, do salat here. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did so and remounted. Then Jibreel alayhi salam said, do you know where you prayed? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no. Jibreel alayhi salam said, you prayed in Yathrib or Tayyibah, land of pastures. And the hijrah will take place here. This is your city. Medina is the first stop. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was stopped in Medina and prayed in Medina. Second stop, Buraq continued his lightning flight, placing his hooves whenever the gaze could reach. Jibreel alayhi salam then said again, come down and pray here. He did so and remounted. When he remounted, Jibreel alayhi salam said, do you know where you prayed now? He said, no, Jibreel, you're telling me, you're my guide. Jibreel alayhi salam said, you prayed in Madian. Madian, a city on the shore of the Red Sea bordering Tabuk, near the valley of Shu'aib alayhi salam, at the tree of Musa alayhi salam, where Musa alayhi salam rested from fatigue and hunger during his flight running away from Fir'aun. Madian, in the hadith. Third stop, the Buraq continued its lightning flight. Then Jibreel alayhi salam said again, alight and pray here. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did the same thing when he was on the Buraq. Jibreel alayhi salam asked him, do you know where you prayed? He said, no. Jibreel alayhi salam said, you prayed at the mountain of Sinai, Mount Sinai, Jabal Tur, where Musa alayhi salam received the wahi, spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fourth stop, then he reached the land where the places of Syria became visible to him. He began to see Syria. Then Jibreel alayhi salam said to him, alight and pray. He did so and remounted. Then the Buraq continued his lightning flight, and Jibreel said, do you know where you prayed? He said, no. Jibreel alayhi salam said, you prayed in Bayt al-Laham, Bethlehem, where Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam was born. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was traveling, mounted on the Buraq, he saw a shaitan, a devil, a jinn from the jinns coming to him. He's also flying in the air, the jinn, with a huge, torch of fire in his hand. He's coming, trying to attack Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he can see there are invisible things that we don't see, but they do things. Who says that UFOs don't exist? UFO? Maybe the jinns, Allahu Alam. He saw a devil from the jinn who was trying to get near him, holding a firebrand, burning wood. Everywhere Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned, he would see this creature. Jibreel alayhi salam said to him the following, Ya Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, shall I teach you words which, if you say them, this fire and the bearer of this fire, the jinn, will fall dead on the ground. Allah will destroy it. Do you want me to teach you something? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, yes, of course, go ahead, because he's disturbing us. Then Jibreel alayhi salam said to him, أعوذ بوجه الله الكريم وبكلمات الله التامات لا يجاوزهن بر ولا فاجر من شر ما ينزل من السماء ومن شر ما يعرج فيها ومن شر ما ذرع في الأرض ومن شر ما يخرج منها ومن فتن الليل والنهار ومن توارق الليل والنهار إلى طريق يطرق بخير يا رحمن. This is the dua. Meaning, I seek refuge in the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wajh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Magnificent. And in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's perfect words, which neither the righteous nor the disobedient overstep, from the evil of that what descends from the heaven, and the evil of what descends or ascends to it, and the evil of that is created in the earth, all the trials of the night and the day, and the visitors of the night and the day, except the visitor that comes with khair and goodness. Ya Rahman, O Beneficent One. This is a dua. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam repeated after Jibreel alayhi salam, and all of a sudden, the spaceship of the jinn and himself smashed on the ground without even touching. Now, ulama in this hadith section here, they go and all of a sudden, without doing anything, they try to explain to us what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw on the journey. Not necessarily on the Buraq, but maybe after he has reached the seventh heaven. Actually, they talk about what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw in Jahannam and Jannah. Jahannam and Jannah, and after that they continue with the journey. So I will not break rank with them, and I will inshallah give you some of the stories that you have heard from your grandparents. Some of the people who told you, And these are the references actually in the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Jibreel alayhi salam are journeying together. They traveled until they reached the people who sowed things in a day and reaped in a day. They put the seeds in, and before the end of the day, they all got all the harvest, and they take the harvest. What a barakah. No tree grows that fast. No, the seed ever grows that fast. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw them, it's just magical. They put it in, it just comes out again. Every time they reaped their harvest, it would replenish as before. Before they even finish it, it's already growing up again. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Ya Jibreel, what is this? He replied, these are al-mujahidun. Those who strive in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who fight in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The exalted. Every good deed of theirs is multiplied for them 700 times. And whatever they spend returns in multiplied version. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam noticed a fragrant wind and said, Ya Jibreel, what is this sweet scent? He replied, this is the scent of the lady who combed the hair of Fir'aun's daughter. In the Pharaoh's court, a lady was combing the hair of Fir'aun's daughter and that of her children. As she combed the hair of Fir'aun's daughter, the comb fell and the lady said, Bismillah, ta'isa Fir'aun. In the name of Allah, may Fir'aun perish. Kharrab baytak. Whereupon Fir'aun's daughter turned around and said, do you have a Lord, Rabb, other than my father? You have any other God other than my father? Because everybody used to worship who? Fir'aun. Ana rabbukumul a'la, he says, na'udhu billah. He says, I am their Lord. Everybody worships him, he says. She said, the lady who's coming, yes, of course, he's not my Lord. Fir'aun's daughter said, I'm going to dob on you to my father. Shall I do that? She told him, go ahead. Go ahead and do it. Not a problem. So she told him, and Fir'aun summoned her and said, do you have a Lord other than me? Do you have a God other than me? She replied, yes, my Lord and your Lord is none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This woman who had 2 sons and a husband, Fir'aun summoned them and he began to entice the woman and her husband to apostate, leave their religion. But they refused. They stayed in Tawheed. Fir'aun said, then I will kill you. I shall definitely kill you. She said, okay, not a problem, you can kill us. But be so good as to bury us, husband, wife, and the children, all of us, together in one grave. That was her request. He replied, granted, and it is your right to ask so, it's our tradition. Then he ordered that a huge cow made out of copper be filled with boiling liquid, oil and water, or something else, that is something really hot, then she and her children be thrown into it. That's the command of the so-called Fir'aun. The children were taken and thrown into one after another, before her eyes. Husband is gone. Other young children are gone, except the infant. She was holding on her breast. She was breastfeeding the baby. She was hesitant for a while because motherly instincts took over. And baby began to speak. Says, mother, don't worry. Fall and do not worry about, for verily you are on the right path. Then she was thrown in the water, into that oil with the child. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh said, 4 spoke from the cradle as they were infants. 4 babies in the world spoke when they were babies. Who are they? This particular child, Yusuf alayhi salam's witness, Jurayz's companion, and Isa ibn Maryam radiallahu alayhim salam. Isa alayhi salam also spoke when he was a baby. Then continues. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw people whose heads were being shattered each time when the angels hit. Every time they would return, then after that, once it's shattered, they come back and become a head again. Angels put their head nicely on this stone. They have a huge hammer. They shatter the heads of the persons, and it's into pieces, scream, that person is receiving punishment. Then after that, all those little pieces, like in the special effects in movies, comes back, reverse, and back to head again. And they repeat the same thing, over and over and over again. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was taken, shocked by this particular scenery. He said, Ya Jibreel, who are these people receiving such a punishment? Jibreel alayhi salam said, these are the people whose heads were too heavy on their pillows. Meaning, to get up, to do Fajr, or to fulfill their 5 daily salats. They were the lazy ones. They were the lazy ones who shall receive this punishment constantly in Jahannam, when they fall into Jahannam. Hafidhan Allah wa iyyakum. How long? Once or twice? No. Believe you me. Huqub is 80 years. 80 years? No. 80 years? Akhirah years. One Akhirah day equals to 1,000 years of ours. Ahqab is minimum that you stay. That is three huqubs. 240 years. Akhirah years. What are we talking about? It goes up to 86 million years our time. Minimum stay. That's one of the punishments a person who neglects his salat deliberately will fall under. Hafidhan Allah wa iyyakum. These are all Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's hadith. It's in the authentic hadith. You can check. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw a people who were wearing loincloths on the fronts and their backs. And they were roaming the way camels and the sheep roam about. They were eating zaqqum and thistles of Jahannam. They're like animals. They're eating zaqqum. Zaqqum is the most bitter creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the forms of torture in Jahannam. If a little tiny, miny drop of zaqqum juice were dropped into our heavens, into our existence, into our reality, he says all the oceans, all the rivers will all die in one go. Such a poison. This is zaqqum. But people will be eating so much of this because they're so hungry. And it says, eat zaqqum. And they're so thirsty. When they drink the urine and the feces and everything else, the leftover, the boiling fat of the Ahl Jahannam is so hot, it seethes through. It goes through and cuts them into pieces. But they cannot never die because there's no death in Jahannam. You dead already once. You cannot die again. So this is a form of punishment in Jahannam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to zaqqum, this particular fruit in the Quran, in Surah 37, verses 62 to 63. The fruit of the tree that grows in hell and whose fruit resembles the head of devils, shaitans. I don't know how the shaitan's head look like. So if you see a shaitan, and it looks like zaqqum. And white hot coals and stones of Jahannam. He said, who are these people who are receiving this zaqqum treatment? Jibreel alayhi salam said, these are the ones who did not meet the obligation of paying sadaqah from what they possessed. Sadaqah in this sense is zakat. They did not pay their zakat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is punishing them through this particular process. Then he saw people who had in front of them excellent meats, beautiful barbecue, nicely grilled. Oh, beautiful, nice. Smell, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, so nice. I can see, nice mashwiya, as the Lebanese would put it. But they were turning around. They would not even look at their own table. They're looking around somewhere else. There were rotting carcasses. Oh, smell putrid, smelling, rotting meat, foul meat. And they're eating it. They're eating it. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Ya Jibreel, this is also an oxymoron. This is a contradiction. What's happening? Why are these people not eating from the meat that is so nice and so beautiful looking in front of them, which is cooked and nicely, and why are they eating that one? Then Jibreel alayhi salam said, these are the men from your ummah who had an excellent, lawful, halal wife at home, but who would go out and see a foul prostitute woman and spend the night with her. And the women of your ummah who would leave her excellent lawful husband and to go and share her bed with a foul fasiq man of somebody else spend the night with him instead of her halal husband. The people are committing zina. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to a plank in the middle of the road, which did not even a piece of cloth, no less than that could cross, except it would be pierced. Anything that touches it is into pieces. Some planks of wood, but these are spikes. You have to pass through. Anything, even clothing, nothing, just into pieces. Jibreel alayhi salam said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Jibreel, what is this? What is the meaning of this? This is what happens to those, your ummah, who sit in the middle of the road and block the road and cut the road and cause damage to people. And he recited the ayah from the Quran. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَلَا تَقْعُدُوا بِكُلِّ صِرَاطٍ تُعِيدُونَ وَتَصُدُّونَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ مَنْ آمَنَ بِهِ وَتَبْغُونَهَا عِوَجًا. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. In Surah 7, verse 86, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and do not lie in wait on every road to threaten wayfarers and to turn away from Allah's path him who believes in Him, and to seek to make it crooked. In other words, the people who cause other people from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the proper meaning. The other meaning is a physical meaning. A Muslim is not a what you call bandit. He's not a highway robber man. He doesn't cause any damage to anybody. A good Muslim is the one, even if he sees a piece of stone that is an impediment to the travelers, he will stop and put it aside for sadaqah. But a Muslim, he does not cause any harm to anybody. But this is referring to the people who are trying to come to the path of Islam. You don't want that person to become religious. You don't want that person to become a good Muslim. You are trying to come up with excuses. It says, don't read too much Quran, you might go berserk. Don't go into religion, you might, you become extremist. What? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was extremist? Or don't become fundamentalist. Just a modern Muslim. You mean Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a fundamentalist? What are you talking about? Don't be a terrorist, man. What, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam a terrorist? Na'udhu billah. Some people have this funny notion. I want my daughter to get married to somebody who's not very religious, because I don't want him to be extremist. Ya Latif. What is extremist? Because Islam is the middle path, not extremist. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, my ummah is ummatan wasata, the middle path. Everything is at equilibrium. Everything is at wisdom. Everything is perfect, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destined us to be. For you to change because it doesn't into your modern thinking, because you're a progressive Muslim or modern Muslim or some sort of a Muslim of Muslim, but not the Muslim that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam teaches us to be, then you fall into this category. Because you are cutting the path of people who want to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw a man swimming in a river of blood, and he was being struck in his mouth with rocks, which he then swallowed or forced to swallow. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked, what is this, O Jibreel? He replied, this is what happens to those people who eat riba, interest, usury, which is haram, absolutely. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw again another incident. He saw a man who had gathered a stack of wood which he could not carry, yet he was adding more wood onto it. Subhanallah, each time his punishment is put more wood, more timber, more timber. He is crushed underneath, constantly punishment. He asked Jibreel alayhi salam, Ya Jibreel, what is the meaning of this? He says, these are the people who are taken public trust, a manner, office. And yet, although they are not trustworthy, they cannot carry this particular burden, they wanted more burden on top, more burden on top. They want more trust, because they want to be at the forefront of people. They want the tawajjuh of people. He then saw people whose tongues and lips were being sliced with metal knives. Am I scaring you? Please don't be scared. This is the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I promise I won't talk about these again. But you need to know this. You need to know this. I promised tonight. I mean, some of the time I'll talk again, inshallah, but tonight. He saw people whose tongues and lips were being sliced with metal knives. Every time they were sliced, they would return to their original state and be sliced again and again and again without respite, without any break in between. Jibreel alayhi salam was asked again by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ya Jibreel, who are these people? Jibreel alayhi salam said, these are the public speakers of division, fitna in your community. They say what they do not themselves. These are the preachers without the practice. These are the readers of your ummah without any practice. The worst people, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, who shall receive the severest punishment on the day of judgment but from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is an alim lam yanfa'hu ilmuhu, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. The one who did not benefit from his own knowledge. He asked people to practice the deen, to pray 5 times a day. He did not pray himself. He asked people to fast, and he asked people to go to Hajj. He never went to Hajj. He asked people to be kind and generous, be righteous. He himself did so many haram things. Amazing place. This dunya is a person who is like a candle burnt, gave light to everybody else, but he himself completely burnt out. The worst people, worse than shaitan on the day of judgment, who shall be burning beneath the shaitan. Alayhi la'na. Then he passed by people who had copper nails with which they scratched their own faces and chests and opened up as a punishment. He asked, who are these, Ya Jibreel? He said, these are the ones who ate the flesh of people, made ghiba and namima, and tarnished the reputation of each other fellow Muslims. The people who made iftara, the people who talked bad about people, they circulated gossip, and they cannot stand people who are successful, so they told a lie to people. And on the day of judgment, they will be tearing themselves apart. This is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he saw a small hole with a huge bull coming out of it. A small needle and a huge bull is coming out of it magically. The bull began to try entering the hole again, go back to the hole where it came from, and was unable. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, this is an oxymoron again. What's happening? What is his purpose? Why is he doing this? What is this, Ya Jibreel? He replied, this is the one in your ummah who tells a major lie, enormity. Then he feels remorse to have spoken it, but unable to take it back. The guilt kills him. He can't do it. He told a lie. He made up a sin. He made up a haram. He said something to people, and people believed, but he realized what he's done. He can't take it back because it's already spread in the community. It became a habit amongst the community. People begin to speak. A person who came up with a swearing word, for example. Somebody came up with something haram, evil word, or evil iftara, evil method of doing things. الدال على الخير كفاعله, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, he who guides other people to goodness is an equal partner in this goodness. Similarly, الدال على الشر كفاعله, the one who invites people or entices people, encourages people to do haram, is an equal partner in that haram, although he did not do it. Example. The other day one brother came to me and says, I had the argument with my aunt. What was the argument? My aunt was dressing up his son. She's a muhajjiba, mashallah. She went to Hajj last year. Where is the son going? He's going to a nightclub to do something haram. Absolutely, definitely, not just nightclub. I'm using the word nightclub. And she says, Auntie, what are you doing? This is haram. He says, no, ma, come on, young man, let him enjoy himself. He's a muhajjiba, a mutadayyina. She did her Isha with us, he says. After Isha, she's dressing and giving money to the child so he can go and commit something really haram. And her argument was, since we couldn't enjoy ourselves when we were young, let the young man enjoy himself. What is she doing? She's encouraging somebody to go and do something haram. While she's sleeping after making a wudu and reading Surah Yasin and Surah Tabarak and going to sleep, she's getting the same sin that the son is committing. Or something else. Anything that you lead to in terms of khair, you get the equal reward. Anything that you lead to in terms of shar and evil, you get the same sin. This is the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, then again the journey. Shaykh Hafiz al-Shami said, then he came to a valley in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam breathed a sweet, cool breeze, fragrant with musk, and he heard a voice. Came to a place that all of a sudden overtakes that beautiful smell, that beautiful scent, musk, beautiful, and he hears a voice. And the voice was saying this. Actually, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, what is this voice and what is this place? Jibreel alayhi salam said, this is the voice of Jannah, praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and saying the following words. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam can hear, O my Lord, Ya Rabbil Alameen, bring into me what you have promised me, for too abundant are many rooms, my gold-laced garments, my silk, my brocades, my carpets, my pearls, my coral, my silver, my gold, my goblets, my bowls, my pitchers, my couches, my honey, my water, my milk, my wine. All these symbolic things that we imagine to be representing absolute luxury, Jannah lists them. It says, Ya Rabbil Alameen, where are they? I'm waiting. Please get them to come to me as quickly as possible. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to the dua of Jannah in the following way. In the hadith, O Jannah, you will have every single Muslim and Muslimah, every mu'min and mu'minah, and everyone who has believed in me and my messengers, and did excellent good deeds without associating a partner to me, nor taking helpers without me. Anyone who fears me will be safe, and whoever asks me, I shall give him, and whoever lends me something, I shall repay him, and whoever relies on me, I shall suffice him. I am Allah, besides whom there is no God. I never fail in my promise. Successful indeed are the believers. Blessed is Allah, therefore the best of creators. And the paradise will say, I accept, Ya Rabbil Alameen. I accept. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to a valley in which he heard a detestable sound. Oh, the groaning and moaning and so funny, weird sound, scary, that sends shivers to your spine. And the amazing, the foul smell that comes from it. Then Jibreel alayhi salam was asked again by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is this? Where is this place? A valley? He says, this is Jahannam. He's making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, Jahannam says, the hellfire says, O Lord, give me what you promised me. For abundant are my chains, my yokes, my punishment, my fires, my thistles, my pus, my tortures. My depth is abysmal, my heat is extreme. Therefore give me what you promised me, O Allah. This is what Jahannam is asking. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replies to him, you will have every pagan idol worshipper, and male and female, every male and female disbeliever, and the foul one, and every tyrant who does not believe in the day of reckoning. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, I saw the Dajjal in his actual likeness. How he's going to look like. He saw him with his own eyes, not in a dream. The hadith says here. The ulama write it down. It was said to him, the companions asked, وَقِيلَ Ya Rasulullah, how was he when you saw him? Can you please describe Dajjal to us? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, mammoth-sized, faylamaniyan, extremely pale and white, aqmaru hijan. One of his eyes is protuberant, protruding, as if it were a twinkling star. His hair is like the branches of a tree. He resembles Abd al-Uzza ibn Qatan, who died in Jahiliyyah. Some of the old heroes, a really ugly looking fella. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw a pearl-like white column. After this one, after seeing Dajjal, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw a pearl-like white huge column, a pillar, Amud, which the angels were carrying. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, what is this, Ya Jibreel? What are they carrying? And he asked the Malaika, what is this? What is it that you are carrying? They replied, the column of Islam. We have been ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to place it in Syria. In Syria. And there are, notes go on, talk about the virtues of Syria. What Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about Syria. The Sham, that area. Syria is a general area. Not just Syria as in the Syria of today, but the Syria, the Sham. There are about 5-6 hadith. They're all sound, Sahih hadith, where other ulama from Ahmad ibn Hanbal to Hafiz al-Haytami and Ibn Athir and Al-Hujwiri and Ibn Asakir, they discuss, they give a hadith in this regard, and they talk about the virtues of Syria, Sham. I'm not going to go into. There were some little tests for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the way. What kind of tests? As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was traveling, he heard someone calling him from the right. Somebody calling him, Ya Muhammad, look at me. I want to ask you a question. Please, look at me. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not even look at him. Did not respond. Then he said to Jibreel alayhi salam, who was this, Ya Jibreel? He replied, this is the herald of the Jews. If you had answered him, your ummah would have followed Judaism. They would become all Yahud, like the Yahud. Says this is the representative of the Yahud. If you paid attention to him, your ummah would have paid attention to them and followed exactly what they were doing. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam continues traveling, and he heard someone calling from his left side, Ya Muhammad, look at me. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not look at him, and he asked Jibreel alayhi salam, who was that? He says, he is the herald of the Nasara, Christians. If you had answered him, your ummah would have followed the Christians. They become like the Christians. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam continued traveling and passed by a woman with a bare arms, decked with every female ornament. She's wearing so many ornaments. She looks, like I don't know, dolled up is the term that we use in this day and age. In the olden days, a woman's worth was not only her facial beauty, but it was the jewelry, the decor that she used to put on, the clothing, silk clothing, the jewelry, the diamonds and what have you. In this day and age, the definition of beautiful woman in this day and age, somebody wearing something else, something, Allahu alam, Ya Latif. No, Ya Latif. So, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw this woman wearing so many beautiful clothing and so many, attractive decor, so to speak. And she kept on asking, Ya Muhammad, look at me. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not look at the woman. And who was this, Ya Jibreel? He asked. Jibreel alayhi salam said, this was the world, ad-dunya. If you had answered her, the ajuza, your ummah would have preferred the world to this hereafter, to the hereafter. They would have become all Ahl dunya, completely. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam traveled on, he passed on an old man who was distance away from his path, saying, he's completely lost. Come here. He's not from the path of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was somewhere else. Says, come here, Ya Muhammad, come here. But Jibreel alayhi salam said, nay, go on, Ya Rasulullah, continue with your journey. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't say anything. He says, who was that, Ya Jibreel? He replied, he was Allah's enemy, Iblis. He wanted you to incline towards him. He went on and passed by an old woman on the roadside who said, Oh Muhammad, look at me. I need to ask you something. But he did not look at her. Then Jibreel was asked, Ya Jibreel, who was that? The world has as much left to live as the remaining lifetime of this old woman. Very old woman, Rasulullah ﷺ saw, not the ornamented woman, the one who looks like pretty, but this was a very ajuz, a very old woman. He says, who was that old woman? He says, this is the life of dunya remaining left. You're the Akhir Zaman Ummah. Your Ummah is the Akhir Zaman Ummah. You're the Akhir Zaman Rasul, Prophet of Allah. He says, your distance between Day of Judgment and this is very close. This is a symbolic representation of the age of dunya. As he went on the way, he met some of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some creatures. They all gave salams to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What kind of creatures? We do not know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah An-Najm beautifully explains. He showed him some of his ayat that his eyes never belied him. His heart never rejected it. It's amazing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One creature said to him, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. O first one, peace be upon you. O last one, peace be upon you. O the gatherer, peace be upon you. Jibreel alayhi salam said to him, return his salams. Give it back his salams, because he is one of us. And he, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, gave a beautiful salams to him. Then he saw them several times. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw these creatures, they're giving salams to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he saw some of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then passed by Musa alayhi salam as he was praying in his grave at a place of red sandhills. This is where Qabr, the grave of Musa alayhi salam, is. He says, while I was traveling, I saw him making sajda. He was praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was tall with a long hair and brown complexion, similar to the one of Shanu'a, the Yemeni man of pure lineage and manly virtue. He was saying with a loud voice, Ya Allah, you have honored him and preferred him. He's complaining to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You honored him and preferred him. Who is it referring to? Still complaining to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why did you, what do you call? Honor Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than I did. Well, I'm supposed to be the best. This is what do you call? Musa alayhi salam. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam greeted him and he returned his greetings. Musa said, who is this with you, O Jibreel? He replied, this is Ahmad. He said, welcome to the Arabian Prophet who acted perfectly with his community, and he made an invocation for blessing on his behalf. Then he said, ask ease for your community from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you see him. Ask for easiness from Allah. Don't ask for difficulty. He continued traveling, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, O Jibreel, who was this man? He replied, this is Musa ibn Imran. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked, who was he reprimanding? Who was he telling off? You remember he was saying? What was he saying before? You have honored him and you have preferred him. What was he reprimanding? He said, he is reprimanding his Lord. In other words, he's complaining to his Lord. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, he reprimands his Lord and raises his voice against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Jibreel alayhi salam said, Allah the Exalted knows Musa's bluntness. That's how he speaks. Musa alayhi salam is not like Ibrahim alayhi salam, laying, soft-spoken. He's a loud person. He speaks that way. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created him. Not in any way Musa alayhi salam is less or bad or anything as such. Don't entertain any thoughts as such. Then they met who? Ibrahim alayhi salam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave salams to Ibrahim alayhi salam, and Ibrahim alayhi salam said to him, welcome the unnetted Arabian Prophet who was conveyed the message of his Lord and acted with perfect sincerity with his community. Then Ibrahim alayhi salam said, O my son, you are going to meet your Lord tonight, and your ummah is the last and the weakest of all ummahs before. You are the weakest. Therefore, if you are able to have your need fulfilled concerning your ummah, or most of it, be sure to do it. Then he invoked for goodness on his behalf. Then, now, after seeing the prophets, eventually they arrived where? Al-Quds. Now the Quds starts. They came and traveling until they reached a valley that is in the city, that is the hallowed house, Jerusalem, Al-Quds. When he entered Jerusalem, Al-Quds, from the southern gate. He dismounted the Buraq and tied it at the gate of the masjid. using the ring by which the prophets tied it before him. One narration states that Jibreel alayhi salam came to the rock and placed his fingers in it and piercing it. Then he tied the burak using the spot he had hollowed out. This is all narration from the hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered the mosque from the gate through which the sun and the moon could be seen when they set. Does it make it the western gate? Because when you look at the west, look at the gate, or is he looking eastern gate or western gate? He sees the sun and moon setting. Usually from the west, when the sun sets, the moon sets right immediately after, right? That's how it works. He prayed 2 rakats of salat in the masjid. Did not wait long before a large group of people had gathered in the masjid, filled up the masjid immediately. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam recognized all of the prophets. Some standing in prayer, some bowing, some prostrating. Then a caller called out to the prayer, and the final call to prayer was made. Iqamah was made. They rose and stood in lines, waiting for the one who would lead them. Jibreel alayhi salam took the hand of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and brought him forward, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam led them in 2 rakats of salat. Where I got this from, Shaykh Muhammad ibn Alawi al-Hasani al-Makki, rahmatullah alayh, he says, this took place before his ascension, before the Mi'raj, according to the highest probability. But however, Hafiz al-Ghiti said, the narrations agree to the fact that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed amongst other prophets in Jerusalem before his ascension. This is one of the 2 possibilities mentioned by Qadi Iyad and Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, rahimahullah. In other words, this incident took place before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went on the Mi'raj. This is an agreed upon. The following is also related from Ka'ab ibn Malik radiallahu anhu. Jibreel alayhi salam stood up and called the adhan. The angels descended from the heavens. Allah gathered all the messengers and the prophets. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed as the leader, as the imam of the angels and the messengers. Then he left. When he left, Jibreel alayhi salam asked him, "O Muhammad, do you know who prayed behind you?" He said, "No." Jibreel alayhi salam said, "Every single prophet whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent before you." Well, how many of them? 25? 28? Those names are mentioned in the Quran, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says 124,000 plus prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abu Hurairah's nation related by Al-Hakim, who declared it Sahih, and by Al-Bayhaqi states, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam met the spirits of the prophets, all of the Anbiya, one by one. They glorified Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They praised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and which Ibrahim alayhi salam said. Ibrahim alayhi salam started. Praise be to Allah who has taken me as his Khalil, his intimate friend, who has given me an immense kingdom, who has made me a prayerful ummah, and one of whom prayer is led, who has rescued me from the fire and made it cool and safe for me. He talks about his own story. Then Musa alayhi salam took over, and he also made dua. He says, praise be to Allah who has spoken to me directly. They're all praising themselves. Who has brought to pass the destruction of Fir'aun and the salvation of the children of Israel at my hands. And who has made from among my ummah a people who guide others through truth and establish justice upon during my time. Then Dawood alayhi salam took over. And he also said about the ni'mah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala given to him, how he was chosen as a king. Then Sulaiman alayhi salam took over. He said, praise be to Allah who has subjected the winds to my command, as well as the devils, the jinns, so that they did as I wished, and constructed for me elevated sanctuaries, images, large bowls in the size of ponds, and vessels fixed in their spot due to their size. Who has taught me the language of the birds, has brought me a part of every good thing, who has subjected to me armies of the devils and the birds, has preferred me over many of his believing servants, who has brought me an immense kingdom which no one after me may possess, and who has made my kingdom a goodly one, wherein there is no reckoning, no punishment. Sulaiman alayhi salam talks about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to him. Isa alayhi salam takes over. And he says, Ya Rabbil Alameen, Alhamdulillah, who has made me his word, kalima. What do we call Isa alayhi salam? His word. Kalimatullah. A word from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who has fashioned me after Adam's likeness, whom he created out of earth, then said to him, be, and he was. Who has taught me the book and the wisdom and the Tawrat and the Injil. Who has caused me to heal the blind and the leper and to raise the dead by Allah's permission. Who has raised me and cleansed me and granted me and my mother protection against the cursed shaitan, so that the devil had no path by which to harm us. This is the end of Shami's edition. Every prophet then glorified his Lord one by one to the best of their language, best of their ability. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's turn came. All of you have glorified their Lord. Now I am going to glorify my Lord and make the hamd and shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He made the following dua, very short. Alhamdulillahi alladhi arsalani rahmatan lil alameen. وكافة للناس بشيرا ونذيرا وأنزل علي القرآن فيه طبيان لكل شيء وجعل أمتي خير أمة أخرجت للناس وجعل أمتي وسطا وجعل أمتي هم الأولون والآخرون وشرح للصدر ووضع عني وزري ورفع لذكري وجعلني فاتحا خاتما. What does that mean? Praise be to Allah. All praise belongs to Allah, who has sent me as rahmatan lil alameen, mercy to the whole universe. Alameen. Sent to all without exception. All humanity, mankind and jinnkind. Not to just a locality or one particular tribe or one particular nation. As a glad tidings giver, Bashiran wa Nadhira, who has caused to descend upon me the Quran, in which there is a perfect exposition to all things, who has made my ummah the best of ummah, ever brought out for the benefit of mankind, who has made my ummah a mean, wasat, mathematical mean, not the mean, and a middle, who has made my ummah in truth the first and the last of all communities, who has expanded my breast and has relieved me of my burden, who has exalted my name and has made me the opener and the sealer. Upon hearing this, Ibrahim alayhi salam said to other prophets, in this my child Muhammad has bested you. Then they spoke about, the prophets, they spoke about the hour, about the day of judgment. When is it going to happen? Ibrahim alayhi salam said, I have no knowledge of it. I've got no idea when it's going to happen. Then they turned to Isa alayhi salam. And Isa alayhi salam said the following, as for the time when it shall befall, no one knows it except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exact date. As for what my Lord has assured me, has told me concerning what comes before all these, the day of judgment, then the Dajjal, the Antichrist, will come forth and I will face him with two rods. As soon as Dajjal sees me, he shall melt like an iron, just melt away. Allah shall cause his destruction as soon as he sees me. It will be so that the very stones will say, every stone will say during my time, O Muslim, behind me hides a disbeliever, kafir. Therefore come and kill me. Or they say, there is a Yahudi behind me. Come and kill me. The followers of Dajjal will be majority, the Yahud. Except one particular tree, one type of tree, they say, which will not say anything. Every creature will say, there is behind me, hiding, come and get it, to Isa alayhi salam. Except one particular tree. They say, recently all over that particular land, Palestine now, they are constantly planting this particular tree. Therefore come and kill him, and Allah shall curse them all to die. These are the people, evil people, who went against God Almighty, who changed the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these are not the true followers of Musa alayhi salam or Isa alayhi salam, who used to believe in Allah as one, who used to follow Rasulullah, Rasul of that time. We're talking about the people who changed the book of Allah, book of the Tawrat, the Injil to their liking. The system to the system that completely does not resemble any of the original teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Isa alayhi salam says, people will then turn to their countries and nations. At that time, Ya'juj wa Ma'juj will come. They will come from every direction. They will trample all nations underfoot. They're so much in number. Whatever they come upon, they will destroy. They'll consume. They will drink up every body of water. At last, the people will come to me and complaining about them. At that time, I will invoke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against them, so that He will destroy them and cause their death until the whole earth will reek of their stench. Allah will send down rain, and which shall carry their bodies away and hurl them into the sea. I have been assured, my Lord, that once all this takes place, then the hour will be as the pregnant mother and the last stages of their pregnancy. Her family does not know when she shall suddenly give birth by night or by day. This is the end of the hadith. Then at that moment, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam felt very thirsty. The hadith says. Then he's very thirsty. Jibreel alayhi salam immediately, Malaika brought 2 vessels, 2 cups. One was a vessel, cup full of wine, and the other one was milk. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam looked both. I mean, not the khamr, the one that gives you intoxication, not the haram stuff. We're talking about wine from Jannah, most likely. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam chose the milk. Jibreel alayhi salam, with the biggest smile on his face, he says, Ya Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you have chosen fitrah. You have chosen the natural disposition. And if you had drunken the wine, if you had taken the wine, your ummah would have strayed from the right way, and none but a few of them would have followed you. We are people of, in other words, majority of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inshallah, will enter Jannah. That is not a problem, inshallah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Kullu mawludin yuladu ala." Every child that is born from a mother is born upon this fitrah. Sinless, blank slate, nothing. There is no such thing as original sin. This fitrah. According to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, then his parents converts him to Judaism or Christianity or Zoroastrianism, the fire worshippers. It is the same with the animal which delivers a perfect baby animal. Do you find it missing anything? As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. Bukhari narrates it, Muslim omits the mention of the animal. Tirmidhi's narration, Hasan Sahih, also omits it but adds, O Messenger of Allah, what if the child dies before that? He replied, Allah knows best what they would have done. In other words, if they lived longer, they would have probably done as a non-Muslim. But every child who dies before the age of puberty, according to Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, inshallah, because they are sinless, they are not mukallaf yet, they will inshallah go to Jannah. So if you see George or Jill in the hospital, baby hospital, oh, assalamu alaikum, because babies are pure, no sin. From that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets our hearts the affinity, gives the affinity into our hearts. We love to hug them, we want to kiss them. Can you imagine kissing an elderly man? He's full of kufr. Oh, he wants to look at you like this. He says, no, he wants to bash you up because you're a Muslim. And he wants to pull the hijab off your head because you're a Muslimah. Can you imagine when he was a baby? Oh, you want to hug him and kiss him because he's pure. Every child is pure in that sense. According to the narration, there were 3 vessels, not 2. The other one was honey. According to some, there was about 5. I'm not going to go into those, but this milk and honey will do for the time being. Subhanallah. How are we going with our time? 9:30? Shall we continue with our Isra wa Miraj next week? Good idea? Inshallah. We still haven't gone up yet. That's all right? We haven't gone up yet. Inshallah, we will go up. Amazing things happen. amazing things happen, inshallah ta'ala. If we can get a, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, get a overhead projector going, I want to show you some images. You can make some comparisons. Then maybe you can understand the gravity, the greatness of this journey. Greatness of the journey. Inshallah, I'm going to stop here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, allow us to understand. I can talk about Isra wal Mi'raj off the cuff, not a problem. But I don't want to do this. But if I read from black and white, from reliable sources, then you can take it. Inshallah, once I finish this one, I'm going to give you a copy of this one. So if you need one, you can go through and read it and study yourself also. But certain things, sometimes the language, it needs certain interpretation or explanation. Inshallah, that's what we do, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair jaza. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase our yaqeen in iman, wisdom, hikmah, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam received from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our hearts also. Because there is no hikmah, there is no wisdom other than Quran and Sunnah. Except what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you through Quran and Sunnah. This is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any other form of hikmah is not a hikmah. The hikmah that other people call it hikmah is not hikmah. It's niqmah. It is a bala. Some people think that it is morality. Nothing to do with the morality of Islam. Nothing to do with the peaceful teachings of Islam. Nothing to do with wishy-washy religious concept of other religions. Inna ad-dina inda Allahi al-Islam. There is no other. This was the greatest mu'jiza. Like Quran, this was a mu'jiza, a miraculous thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave as a gift to uplift the soul of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to fortify his resolve, and to give him strength, so that there is no more shak, there is no doubt, so that it gives him self-confidence. So he saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, we will go through, and inshallah, and at the end of the thing, we will put this as a PDF file on the website, ymatv.com, and you can download it yourself, and inshallah you can read it yourself. Not a problem. Either electronic copy, or you can do the hard copy, and inshallah ta'ala, you can print it yourself and read it yourself, or keep a copy for yourself, inshallah ta'ala. 17 calls and 7 messages. Ya Latif. The most important message here, it says biryani being served, please ask for generous donation. So there is biryani, plenty of biryani food downstairs to make sure everyone comes down and eats, please. So biryani glow, inshallah. Biryani is the famous food here. We're going downstairs, finish inshallah, khalas. Jazakumullah khair jaza. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wahdaka la sharika lak. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal 'asr innal insana fi khusr. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر صدق الله العظيم. اللهم بارك لنا في رجب وشعبان وبلغنا رمضان لله تعالى الفاتحة.